Previous guest
All right.
writes the first question. I will let you jump into it.
What about transition changed you personally the most? All right.
What do you think?
Let's roll right into it.
Yeah.
I think my transition, responsibility, learning a different I guess having to take more responsibility. You know, it's on you when you get out of the military.
How many years did you do total?
6.
And how long you been out?
10.
Okay.
No,
Was
9.
9.
Sorry.
So you wanted to get out when you got out.
Yeah. Midway through, I knew I was on my first deployment, and I knew when I got back, I had a younger brother who was in training, and he got injured and didn't make it. And when I got back from deployment, that's when I found out he was out. And I had been thinking about it throughout deployment. And he's in the band with me, so we do music together. We always did. And so I immediately was like, that's it. That's my answer right there. And I went to him and I said, hey, put that behind you. When my time is up, I'm going to get out and we're going to rock and roll. And I still had 3 years at the time. I was halfway through, but yeah.
No pun intended to the rock and roll, right?
What's that?
When you said, hey, when I get out, we're going to rock and
No,
roll.
that's what I meant. We were going to rock and roll. Yeah.
I just want to, I told you this when we started. I'm really interested in the whole music thing. The music aspect for me is, I think about people who write music, and I imagine them being on the stage, starting to sing their song, and the crowd starts singing their song back to them. I can't think of anything, maybe your kid's being born or something, that has got to be a rush and a half. So the music thing is I don't play music, but it interests me. So before we get deep into it, and you're wearing a Tom Petty shirt, what are your musical inspirations?
Yeah, I mean, that you hit the nail on the head with that. I mean, that's kind of, I don't know if it's just the dream, because the dream is, and the passion is playing music, writing songs. But all right, what does that look like? What would, success look like? And to me, the ultimate is that, to be in a big place where there's a lot of people who came to listen to your songs. And if you stopped singing for a second, they're singing your song back to you. Yeah, Tom Petty, shows are full of that, right? And that's the inspiration that I got was, say, a Tom Petty concert. What that was like for me, it's like, oh, I would love to be able to spread that.
I know and I don't know if it's truly true or not, but supposedly it's attributed to James Hetfield and Metallica when people started, oh, you sold out. Yeah, we sold out. We sold out this arena. We sold out this arena. And, and at the end of the day, I'm sure everybody who's an artist wants to create a product that somebody else doesn't have their hands in it. You want to pay me to make music and sell it under your label, great. But leave me alone. Let me create my music. And in that sense there, I'm sure most artists say, I don't want to be corporate. But at the end of the day, if you could create your work, whatever it is, an artist creates a painting, a Scorsese creates a movie, at the end of the day, you want affirmation from the biggest amount of people possible. So if you wrote a song that, I think we're in the holidays. What do they say Mariah Carey makes off that one damn Christmas song?
Yeah.
Every season, you want that song that everybody's going to remember. And like you said, whether it be a 5,000 person arena or a venue or a 50,000, If you stop singing and all of those people are singing your song back to you, it says, I wrote something that matters to you, and it gives you purpose.
Yeah.
Taking, just real quick before we get into the young you mentioned your brother was injured in training.
Mm-hmm.
Was he in the military? Because I know you're a combo family.
Yeah. What do you mean by comp?
You've got first responder and military. It's
two
like
firemen and four of us. No, two firemen. Yeah, and then four of us. There's six boys. Four of us served in the Navy. Actually, one of those firemen was in the Navy as well.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, my little brother and I joined boot camp together. We were rocking and rolling. We were playing in the band. I was in college. He's a few years behind me. And that's what we were doing. And, you know, it hit us both to serve. And, you know, when that's inside of you, it's something, I don't know what that is. You know, it's once you're in and you're doing it, it's not like you think, oh, I'm serving or whatever. But before you join the military, were you in the military prior? Or?
No, got close, but I didn't do it. I did 35 years in law enforcement.
Okay. I don't know if it's the same, but it's like this thing inside of you that says, yeah, I have to put myself there. I have to do my duty. And it's not like no one told you to do that duty. It's just inside of you that you see people do that. There's a sacrifice there. And you think, well, I should sacrifice myself along those lines, you know? So that's what we had. And my brother and I were both around the same time, you know, doing it. And we were in boot camp together. We were in training together until he got injured. So yeah, it was fun. There's a lot of funny stories and, you know, I know plenty of those guys. We know plenty of those guys from those first days in boot camp through SEAL training. And it's a funny thing to all be a part of. And my brother and I, you know, sharing that.
Were you both in on contracts, SEAL contracts when you went in?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How bad was his injury?
It was stress fractures in the legs, which he couldn't, you know, finish the runs in time and certain things. And he's a tough guy. He's a big boy. But yeah, so that happened. And then he actually got a chance to come back again and kept trying, but those legs were breaking down. So,
well, let's dig into that more. Where 6 of you serving,
yeah,
first responder or military, where does that come from? Is your family generational as far as service back to the country?
Yeah. And we have like a bigger Hansen family chat, which from time to time, which I think it was Veterans Day recently, some pictures were going back and forth. My grandfather, he is, you know, World War II, but he's from that time where it's always crazy to think he served in the 30s. He did his time, got out, had some kids. Pearl Harbor happens. He signs back up and he goes overseas. You know, he was a CB. He was in the Pacific. Yeah, I never met him. He died right shortly before I was born. But then my dad had 2 brothers. The 3 of them all were in the Navy. And we grew up with that. I have an uncle. He was a chaplain, and he did his full retirement. So when we were kids, he would come in from time to time and he'd have his uniform, and we'd, you know, just think he was, you know, it was Davy Crockett and, you know, Uncle Rod, you know, or whatever. Anyway, so we grew up with that, impressed by it. And then my older brother started serving, and then I just kind of.
Was your dad Vietnam era or Korea?
Vietnam era. He was in the Navy. He wasn't, you know, overseas in Vietnam. But that's the era he was in. I think 68 to 72, which was the heart of that. I think those were his years.
What did he do in the Navy?
Cargo, airplane cargo. I don't know what the actual
rate.
The rate is. Yeah. We don't. I guess in the SEAL teams we don't really pay so much attention to that. To be honest, got asked those kind of questions or whatnot, but
I like hearing the stories of, because I believe it's changed now. I don't think you actually go to an A school anymore,
right?
When you're on a contract. But I like hearing the stories of the guys who, when they came in, is like, what rate is going to get me the shortest school so I can get to buds?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to do that,
Yeah.
but I got to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Where do you fall in the pecking order of the six? Did you say your brother's younger than you?
Yeah, me and my little brother were the youngest of the boys. It's me, then my sister. She married a SEAL who I grew up with. He was a buddy of mine. And then my little brother. We're the three youngest.
Is there like a gap kind of between the older and the younger, or did it just kind of fall in line?
There's a little gap in the middle. There's 8 of us total.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a little gap. There's like a 4-year gap and then like a 3-year gap, and then me and us last 3.
What'd your dad and mom do for work?
My dad was a carpenter and a tree cutter. And my mom, was a homemaker.
Taking care of 8 kids. That was
She's
her
an angel.
full-time job.
Yeah.
So where is hometown?
Staten Island, New York.
How'd you like growing up there?
Oh, I loved it. I still love Staten Island. I love California, and I love Southern California. Weather here is unbeatable. But yeah, Staten Island, New York.
Each of us is on the grind. It's that early alarm, the extra rep, the drive that doesn't quit. Grind, spelt GRND, is the mindset that pushes you to go further when most people stop. Founded by a former Army Ranger, Grind Activewear is built on one simple mission: give 100% and then some more. Every piece of clothing is functional, durable, and made for people who outwork the rest. On the field, in the gym, or wherever you're building your next lane. This isn't just clothing. It's commitment woven into fabric, rooted in American grit and culture. Because when you wear Grind, you're not just wearing a logo. You're representing effort, discipline, and purpose. Check out thegrndcollective.com and use the promo code TRANSITION15 for 15% off your order. You're already on the grind. Now wear it.
Great time growing up. We had a great block. We had a lot of kids. I felt like I grew up in a movie. I still talk to some of my friends back home, and we all feel that way. We had like this ideal childhood where it was like a Dennis the Menace movie, or all these little movies we grew up with, Sandlot and Little Giants. Like we lived that. We lived it for sure.
For people who've never been to the city, Staten Island's usually not the destination point to go visit, and it's
the stepchild of the
it's obviously one of the boroughs that makes up the city, but it's 90% residential, more than anything big business or anything. So it is very much the antithesis of what the city's like.
Yeah.
And I only say that because being born there, not grew up there, but have spent a lot of time there. And so I don't think people really understand what Staten Island really is about. So when you're talking about it being kind of like Dennis the Menace, it's really kind of removed from the city.
Yeah. And it's changed a lot since I was a kid, but it's all, and the city is like that, or, New York City, I think there's a lot of fragments, like this neighborhood gets built up in these years, and then this neighborhood changes, and this neighborhood's left behind or whatever. And this one gets mowed down and turned into a mall. So it still is fragmented in that way. But like my whole neighborhood is Brooklynized, and it's different.
One of the things I do like, and this is not just in New York, but more East Coast, you can still go back and find specific neighborhoods of a specific ethnic group. And that was always kind of the way the city was. You had your neighborhoods, and it wasn't in any way of racist, exclusionary, whatever you want to talk about. It was just where that ethnic group of people settled.
Yeah.
And you interacted with everybody. But I don't want to say their neighborhood, but it was their neighborhood.
Yeah. And I mean, I live in El Cajon and in San Diego. El Cajon is filled with different, a lot of Chaldeans are in my children's school. There's pockets, different Middle Eastern pockets, but a lot of Middle Eastern families. Why? Because they all come and they want to, hey, I know this guy, they're all moving and they settle together. And that's natural, I think. And yeah, the New York City has always had that in a big way. Pockets. When I was a kid, a lot of Russians were newer, but there's big pockets of Russian neighborhoods. And the Russian kids in school all knew each other. And we all interacted and it was all good. But that's how it was.
You talked about the Dennis the Menace lifestyle. So what took up your time as a kid? Were you heavily into sports or were you always into music?
I was always into music. I know my older brother, I don't remember him, being mean, but in this way, but he has joked like, I feel bad. I remember making fun of you for not wanting to play football and wanting to ping, ping, ping on the piano, But yeah, I can actually remember people trying to get a football game going outside and me being like, I don't really want to do it. And actually, maybe trying to play some piano or something.
Did it start on where I'm in my mind, where I'm kind of thinking is your mom's got 8 kids she's got to raise. The boys are like, hey, let's go outside and play football. And mom's like, no, you can go play football, but you're going to learn music. Or was it simply, hey, I want to get into music?
Yeah. My mom, we had a friend from church and she gave piano lessons. And my mom asked, I think she was always trying to ask her kids if any of them wanted to play. We had a piano and I was interested. So I took some piano lessons, but I didn't really learn it. I actually did, would always come around and tinker on it and try to remember stuff. But that lasted for a little while I was like 8 years old. And then when I was in high school, in junior high, things definitely changed. I got this bug with the music and really searching it out. And then in high school, I started trying to learn again and pick it up. And I realized I could come over and find the notes.
What was your instrument when you were in high school?
I mean, guitar. Guitar is my instrument. But I knew a little piano before I knew guitar.
When it came time to actually pick up a guitar, and I'll call it get serious about it. I remember being in high school and a group of guys are, hey, let's put a band together. None of us really knew how to play. And I got delineated as, hey, you're going to be the bass player because nobody else wanted to be the bass player. And I got a bass and we didn't do anything with it. But what I'm getting at is when you said, okay, I want to get serious with this. I want to pick up a guitar. I really want to learn. Is there a band or a guitarist that was really like, okay, this person made me want to do it?
Yeah, I was into a lot of different players. I think there was a thing that there was certain music and certain bands and certain artists that I said, oh, this sounds more simple, as in there's some space here, a few chords. I guess I recognized it. And when I picked it up, it was like I could follow along it. John Lee Hooker. I had a record player and a record collection from. It wasn't in yet.
I was gonna say I was not thinking you were gonna throw out John Lee Hooker.
Yeah, John Lee Hooker was a big one because I have a brother-in-law and he was in Nashville and he singer-songwriter. He played music and I would go to their house and they had this CD collection was great. They had everything. If they liked these artists, they had every one of their albums. the first time I rightfully I went to their Beatles collection. They had every Beatles CD, and I went through it chronologically. And I'm like in 8th grade, 7th grade. I can remember doing that. To the guitar though, I got his record collection. He had a guitar shop, and at some point he got rid of all these records, gave me this. I had him in high school, and I would put on the John Lee Hooker. The nice thing about a record player is like you just pick up the needle and go back, you don't have to like find anything. It's interesting, but I drop it where I want it or on what song. And, I just sit there with my guitar and John Lee Hooker, Creedence Clearwater, because there are a lot of 3-chord songs. The Eagles, because it's more mellow. Some of the songs might be more than that, the 3-chord structure or whatever, but they're pretty basic too in that way. I don't use that in any derogatory word like that.
People that put down the Eagles, to me,
dude.
Again, I'm not a musician from a, guitarist, drummer, that type perspective. Phenomenal musicians when you listen to a play, but their ability to harmonize and put together the vocals.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why everybody under the sun knows so many Eagles songs, because they wrote good songs.
Yeah. Eagles were that was my favorite band for a time in high school. I went quick. I had 3 favorite bands really. When I first got into music and I was really seeking out the stuff I heard from my older brothers, I really just locked into Bon Jovi. And I was just really, I loved Bon Jovi.
Could you be on the East Coast of the 80s?
I guess so. I guess,
and not be into
from
Bon
Jersey,
Jovi?
and I would go hang out in that neighborhood. I had a good buddy who was into music, and he was in Marlboro, New Jersey. And I would go over there a lot. And we were into Bruce, we were into Bon Jovi, but Bon Jovi, that's like that 80s, a little more pop, a little more, produced. But then the Eagles, I got into the Eagles, and they were my favorite band. And then when I got into the Stones, I was always into the Stones, but when I got,
thank you.
I got like 20 Stones albums one summer right before they went on their 40 Licks tour. I got like 20 Stones albums, and that was it. I never had another favorite band. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers is a close second.
The never-ending debate between people, Beatles or the Stones.
I don't go there. I mean, I'm a huge Beatles fan. In fact, in the last 3 months, I haven't listened to almost any other artist except Paul McCartney. Now, this isn't even, it's really just Wings and Paul McCartney solo stuff.
Right.
But I saw him in September. I took my oldest daughter to Palm Desert to see him. And I mean, I'm just like, I love Paul McCartney. I love the Beatles, but yeah, the Stones is my favorite band. I mean,
a little bit off topic. I went and saw Tony Bennett. This is probably 10 years ago, 11 years ago, whatever it was. And he was at a small event center. I would say maybe 3,000 people, 4,000 people. He was maybe pushing 80 at that point in time. Stopped the music, went a cappella, and filled that venue with his voice. And you're just kind of like, all right, the good ones have it. And it was, I mean, of course, I love Tony Bennett's, growing up with my dad, old East Coast Italian guy. So it was Sinatra, Martin, that. But wow, hearing him and seeing him in person was just amazing. So I'd imagine to a degree, it's got to be the same way with Paul McCartney. He's probably, just because he's older, is probably still extremely talented and easy to see it when you see him in person.
Yeah, and he's got the songs too, so it's like one after the other. You're like, oh yeah, he can't even fit, his solo great songs into one concert.
It's got to be hard once you've been around for a while to create your set list, because 30% of your audience is going to be sitting there going, "Why didn't you play?"
Yeah, it's got to be. I mean, when you're, so with the Stones too. My wife had seen that they released a concert, an 89 concert documentary, and they put it out in IMAX this week. So 2 nights ago, I took my 2 oldest and my cousin was in town. He's a pilot. And he was in town, and I was like, dude, I'm going to see the Stones in IMAX. He's like, I'll meet you there. And we went. But why'd I bring that up just now? Oh, I was saying to my kids, I'm like, you know, they're doing the encore. You know the encore. I know the encore's coming. I was like, they're going to come back out. I was like, because you know what, they haven't played yet. And I was like, they haven't played Satisfaction. You know they're going to play Satisfaction. But then I'm like talking to her, and I'm like, well, they didn't play Jumpin' Jack Flash. They didn't play Gimme Shelter. That would probably be in the encore too if they hadn't played it. But, you know, in the show, they just came out and played Satisfaction. Just, you know, like I said, I was like, all right, I was right. But when you have that many songs, it's like, you know, you can stand there and be like, oh, they have to play this. And maybe they won't because they you know, they don't have enough time. But anyway.
I would imagine the opposite side of it, though. Write a song, whether or not you think it's not a good song, bad song, but like you don't realize maybe it's going to become a hit, but it may not be your favorite.
Yeah.
And you're like, shit, everybody wants this song, but it's not really the song that we like to play.
Go get your beer, you know? That's what they're all there for. You're there for the deep cuts or whatever, you know? Go get your beer during the hit.
Did you get your first band up and running while you were in high school?
Mm-mm. Yeah, I was pretty late to it. I just screwed around in high school and got in trouble and whatever.
Anything significant?
Didn't play any sports. Well, I broke into my high school in senior year and got arrested for that. We didn't really try to do anything. What's the word? Malicious. But just, you know, that almost made me more of a punk because I was like, I wasn't trying to do anything. I was just trying to break into my school. But so I was dumb, 17. And yeah, that was the big thing.
What year did you graduate?
2004. And it was in the paper, and like the principal was very cool to us. And then, you know, after we got back into school, after our, you know, 3-day suspension or whatever, we were like the kings of the school, which was really cool.
Did you have any plans at that point in time? You mentioned college. Did you have plans for what adult life was going to be after high school?
Yeah, it was all very simple for me. Like, I'm good at art. I was in all the art classes growing up. I'm good at art, and I want to go to art school. And, you know, the most interesting art school to me at the time was the Fashion Institute in Manhattan. And I applied, and I remember bringing my portfolio, and I snuck in a couple extra. They asked for just these, and I snuck in a couple of my other works that didn't like. I was like, I want them to see like the stuff that I do. And, you know, I got accepted, and that was it. This is the only school I applied to. I went there for a year, and then I kind of knew I wanted to join the military eventually. I wanted to work full time and travel and stuff. So I left there. So I hadn't even had my license, right? I went straight into school in Manhattan, so I just take public transportation all the time. So then got my license, left FIT, enrolled in my community college, and
a very stupid question.
Yeah.
When you enroll or apply to FIT, it's a broad art degree, but you're going to be able to specialize if you stay through the whole program, correct?
It was a little more for that. I had to apply to a certain degree. I applied to illustration, and I wrote a paper, and it was on one of the Rolling Stones album covers that Andy Warhol had done, and I wrote you know, all about it and how much I loved it, and if I could just make an album cover like that, you know, that would be a dream of mine. And I guess they liked that little thing I wrote, but because I had to write an essay, whatever that essay was.
So
that was it.
Here's my circle back to all this, the Stones and you and I talking in album covers. Catholic high school. We are told to pick a song and make it an album cover.
Very cool.
Catholic high school, I chose the Stones' Sympathy for the Devil.
Oh, wow. You're a controversial guy.
No, I was just a kid with my, kind of like it sounds like you. I really wasn't looking to do anything bad or get myself in trouble. I was just a troublemaker. I was a knucklehead.
Okay.
I just saw it as like, yeah, this'll ruffle some feathers. And so I had a picture of Jesus kneeling to the devil.
Whoa.
Got in a garbage ton of trouble. In the sense of, this is not acceptable. You're going to redo this assignment kind of deal. But yeah, I remember when you talk about album cover and talk about the Stones, that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Wow. So you're a big Stones fan.
I liked rock and roll. I was a kid of the 80s. So I was that heavy metal kid, Motley Crue and Iron Maiden. For me, it's always been AC/DC. And,
Bon Scott or Brian Johnson?
See, there's the real debate, because tell me a band that switched singers and never really slowed down.
No, they just went harder.
You could bring Sabbath into the argument, and you're like, are you more a Dio? Are you more Ozzy? Sabbath, but they're distinctly different bands, and neither one of them had any Ozzy to a degree, but not the length that AC/DC has had with having, you can even make the argument, do you like David Coverdale, with Black Sabbath? But it was just, I loved listening to music. And I wasn't musically inclined. I tried learning the guitar. It just did not come to me naturally. I was not somebody who could listen to it and then repeat that note on the instrument. It was very much a struggle for me. Going through the typical guitar classes, and you're going to learn Red River Valley, and it's like, this is boring as hell. Oh, and you're starting out on plastic strings because the metal ones are going to destroy your fingers. And so it always kind of felt like, man, I'm not getting there. And then I knew a guy who had an electric guitar, and he could play it. He'd let me play, and it sounded like, and so there was never any point for me to where there was that little spark that encouraged me to try more. And so through high school, it was just a matter of just being an outsider, just kind of a knucklehead. And music was the thing that did it. And I found that I listened to everything, I've always kind of had that enjoyment of blues. You mentioned Muddy Waters and somebody playing, like, you're probably too young for this. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but with Ralph Macchio, Crossroads.
Yeah.
And you get somebody playing like on a slide guitar. That has always just, I'll stop what I'm doing just to listen to it. And so, yeah, it wasn't, of the two, I've always been more of a Stones fan than a Beatles fan. Never really dug the Beatles. Stones, yeah. But to the point where I know their collection inside and out, no. It's just by osmosis.
Yeah.
My cousins were of that era of the Who. Man, they love, so, you hear old Who music, and I go, it takes me right back to that point in time. Today, if I had to pick a band, Social Distortion for me is that one that just keeps always coming back around for me. So it was just a love of music. I just love music.
Yeah. That's funny. The first time I heard Social Distortion was at FIT. One of the guys in the class, really, really good artist. He always played Social Distortion. That was his favorite band. Cool. Ring of Fire.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I was a big Johnny Cash fan. And he had died while I was in high school too. But he was showing me that Ring of Fire. And they did a Stones song too, right?
Yes.
Did they have a big cover of one of the Stones songs?
Yeah, why am I drawing a blank on it though?
Is it Under My Thumb?
Yes.
Which is the one we covered, Under My Thumb too. So the only cover really that we put out, which is funny, but yeah, okay. Anyway, continue.
Something I was going to say, now I've quickly lost my train of thought on. Oh, at the core of it though, I don't care if you go to the Stones, if you go to AC/DC, if you go to Social Distortion, even to a degree, the Eagles, it's about melody. And in my opinion, it's blues. It's just variations of blues. AC/DC turns it up a little bit louder. The Eagles go what would be considered more of an acoustic level. Social Distortion just ramped up, not necessarily the volume, but the speed. But if you listen to it, to me, it's just blues.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Blues is in there. Yeah, blues is the root of rock and roll.
I mean, if you go back to it, the Beatles and the Stones were copying, or at least inspired by, American blues.
Oh yeah. Oh, and well documented. Like those are the guys they said, oh, this guy's going to open for us, and they're like, no. They're like, yes, put him up there. They promoted those Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, and all of them. Brought them back. And there's a saying too, one of them said it, I think it was Keith Richards, but we let the American kids know what was in their backyard. They had this music, but we brought it back to them basically, crazy, but.
What made you leave FIM?
FIT.
FIT, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I was coming to the end of my first year, and I was just wising up a little bit. Never really wised up. I still haven't. But was like, yeah, I want to work. I want to travel. I need some money in my pocket. I think I want to join the military. I don't know if I want to live a life of the artist, which is funny because that is ultimately what I wanted. But I wanted to explore other things, and so I wanted all those. So I left, worked more, and went to my community college. There, I just happened to take this antiquity, this history course, and the professor and I had great conversations. She was brilliant. I still talk to her from time to time. And she had this project going on that had to do with restoring artwork. So they were taking someone from the art department, which I was not in this school, but they wanted a history major. She said, if you, with your art background, you could be great for this, but you have to be a history major. I said, that was the major that I was debating, taking. And I went to Greece for a month. I just partied over there. I did not, whatever.
You made your own history.
Yeah, I made my history that I don't remember too much about. But yeah, so I did that, and that was great. And by the time I finished that, I knew I wanted to go to Buds, and I had hired a girl there that was on the swim team. Said, I got to learn this side stroke thing. Do you know the side stroke, what this is? And she was like, oh yeah, I'll teach you. I was like, great. So I went to her during my last semester and learned a little bit of the side stroke, and then moved out to San Diego and trained for my contract.
How long had you known that you were going to go in the military?
I think the last 2 years of college, I was there. I had conversations with my brother, who was a SEAL. Two of my brothers were SEALs at this time now. But the older one, I would talk to him. Hey, what about going in as an officer? I have college behind me. Should I go in as an officer? Well, that's going to be a longer road. You got to actually go to another school that offers the, ROTC, or go to a military school. I was like, I don't want to take any more time, all right, well, okay. What about, these other job descriptions? I don't know if I can cut it as a SEAL, that wasn't really like my initial. But, I would work out, I'd come out here, visit, and we do crazy workouts on the base.
Were they stationed on the West Coast?
They were both on the West Coast. We'd be doing workouts where we were flipping logs, the logs that they carry in Buds. We would we'd be just flipping them for a mile down the beach and back. And, when you get your break, you got to go drag a tire. We do these insane workouts, and I always could hang.
When you got into buds, did you have a realization holding a log one time going, hey, this log looks familiar?
I knew that part that was coming. But my brother always did have, my brothers always did like, hey, don't they didn't tell me all the things. And I can remember this from certain guys, maybe that were rollbacks. They were injured, and now they're classing back up with my class. They'd all come into the class and be like, you guys don't know what's ahead. This is coming. This day is going to suck. Wednesday of the third week, when you have to do this, then you'll see if you really got it. And I just be like, oh my goodness. Like, my brothers didn't even like say that shit to me, like.
Let's be honest. We're hard on our sunglasses, especially first responders and military members. They get dropped, scratched, left on the dash, or crushed in our gear bags. Frontline Optics gives you the same premium quality and eye protection without the high price tag. Sure, you can spend big money on the designer brands, but why should you? From polarized UV 400 lenses to anti-reflective and water-repellent coatings, every pair of Frontline Optics glasses is built to handle the demands of the job. And here's the best part. When life happens and they break, Frontline Optics has a no questions asked replacement program, even for prescription glasses. If that's not enough, Frontline Optics was founded by a firefighter, and a portion of every sale supports the First Responders Children's Foundation, helping the families of those who gave everything. If you're looking for sunglasses that look good, are built tough, and that come from a company that gives back, visit frontlineoptics.com and use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your purchase. Frontline Optics, from a first responder for the front lines.
There were some bad aspects of that, because I'd be like, guys, don't listen to these guys. They suck. Don't worry about it, whatever. And maybe that wasn't always the best attitude, but really my brothers would be like, yo, don't game it. All that, it's a marathon, it is smart advice, but they would be like, no, you do your best, every time you put out, and you give every inch of you got all the time, those kind of, those are the kinds of things that they put on me. So, that was, you dig down to your gut.
Swimming come relatively easy to you?
No. I was just telling my older brother this story because we were talking about my swim buddy. He's a great guy who's still in the teams. One of my swim buddies when I was in buds. Well, we're in second phase. So we made it through Hell Week, made it through first phase, but we were both not great swimmers. Well, he said he wasn't a great swimmer, but as it turns out, we both were going through different swim buddies. I remember I had one good buddy in buds who was a great swimmer, and he thinking, oh, Mark's a stud, he'll hang. He took me on, and I was like, dude, I'm not really a good swimmer. He's like, no, I'll just follow me or whatever. And I was way behind him, and he was, I remember him in the water be like, come on, he's just cursing me out. I'm like, this is my buddy, just cursing me out on the water. I'm like, I'm doing my best. But no, I got with this other guy, and he was like, yeah, I suck, but let's go together. We know we're both hard chargers. All right. And he's like, I'll guide, because you need someone is guiding in the, I don't know how much ocean swimming you've done, but someone's guiding towards because it's a 2 mile swim,
Get a little swell sighting all of a sudden gets really fucking difficult.
Yeah, it is.
I did triathlons for a bunch of years. Okay. And so doing the open ocean swims, you're just kind of like, I need something that's about 40 feet tall to sight off of.
Yeah. My neck was always out of the water. Well, when I got with him, man, all of a sudden I went from, we had just failed to swim. That's kind of what brought us together. The other guys in our swim buddies were like, oh, I'll go over here, So we get together and we're second swim pair in the class. And it's just we get out of the water and we're like, how did that happen? But we kept that up through second phase, and it was just we were blown away. I remember the 5 mile swim that we did. They'd all circle up in the middle of it for like, and the instructors get a look at everybody and all that. I'm sure it's for that too, but everybody gets a drink of Gatorade or whatever. And we got into the little swim circle and we looked at each other and we pulled an NO Explode they had these shots of NO Explode. We had 3 of them in our swimsuits and we just pulled one out, shotgunned it, and we just kept going. We're like, we're not circling up. And we came out of that second on that 5 mile. And I remember the guys coming out behind us, cursing us out. Another really good buddy of mine, who I'm still buddies with to this day. He was a great swimmer. And he got out, he's like, "You cheated." And I was like, "Dude, how could I cheat? Like, I'm as blown away as you are right now, but here we are." So those are the best things about buds, when you can just put out and like do some unthinkable thing.
When did you go in?
2010.
And you and your brother boot camp together?
Yeah.
And then did you guys get to start buds together?
No, they had, at that time in Chicago, they would do pre-buds they called it. And you were basically like an athlete.
Was this where they would segment you off during boot camp and you would get additional training?
No, that was just boot camp. And
okay.
Like our boot camp was 100 guys all trying to be SEALs. And it was filled with characters, and it was just great. So many great dudes. Plenty of them, never made it. Some of them I still have kept in contact with that didn't even make it. Just like such a great group of characters. But then we spent the winter. Winters were prolonged because they didn't have a buds class up. So we got to spend 4 months, which I think we were very lucky because it was the best time of our lives. Like just going out in Chicago, we'd get on the train, they tell, they'd lock down the base or whatever. No one can leave, but like we'd jump out the window and like jump on a train and head into town. But yeah, those were good times. So we came back, and then there's the buds orientation. And that's like a month or so where they give you FAMs on everything. You're still putting out. It's not easy, and you still have to pass the weekly tests. That's the thing. They're just not putting as much pressure on you. And that's where my brother, he was with us then. But we came to San Diego with like 230 something guys. And we started, I think we started first phase with like 180 something guys. And then we started Hell Week 3 weeks later with 80 something guys. So guys are between injuries and guys quitting. But my brother, he didn't make it, he didn't class up with us. So it was the final week of that buds orientation, whereas he couldn't pass the runs. I used to, at that time, I would run behind him and push him. And then I remember the last run, the instructors came up and they were like, "Hey, we see what you're doing, but there comes a time where you have to show us what you got too." It could also look the other way, like this is easier for you to just stay behind him. They were kind of saying that in a nice way, but they were like, at some point you have to break away and you have to show us what you got. So I remember that run just being like, all right, man, I have to do this. And so I did the run, and yeah, he rolled.
Were you able to avoid any significant injuries during it?
Yeah, I sprained my ankle pretty good during a workout in SQT after buds. And at that point I had been with them. We were in Alaska doing cold weather and survival training. And so it was like, I thought it was broke, but it turned out to just be a bad sprain. It blew up so big though. They were like, "Hey, just take it easy for 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, you have to swim, and then you have to start dive and MAROPS and SQT. If you can't heal up in the 2 weeks and you can't pass that swim and you can't get with your class, then we're going to roll you." But all we had left, we had like an admin week, and we had the last week in Alaska where it was just like this big patrol overnight. And so they felt that I could hang back from that and see if I was good. And I was good. So I stayed with the class.
And potentially that rollback at that point would just be back to the start or the beginning of SQT?
I would have rolled back to at that point, I would have rolled to the next class. So yeah, I guess I would have come back from Alaska and go back unless I needed to heal longer. If it was a worse injury, you're out. One guy rolled out of our class, was with us all the way. He rolled out in SQT for troubles with his wife, who turned out to be, nuts. And, he took that 7-8 weeks between the next class comes, and he just classed up with the next class. I think that, he got some of his life together for those 8 weeks. I just saw that guy again recently too. Awesome. These guys are all like leading platoons and leading troops now, and it's cool to see.
Not being somebody who, I don't want to say didn't excel, but didn't take to swimming naturally. Any issues, pool comp, that type stuff?
Pool comp. Oh, that was the worst thing I ever did. Yeah. You get 4 shots and I got it on my 4th. And I didn't even make it. It's a 20-minute test. You don't know the underwater, like how long you're going, but they're just beating you up underwater, flipping you around and taking all your air away. And then you have to procedurally get it back. So my brother had broken my nose. My brother and I would get into like famous fights. And he broke my nose and I couldn't, and it was in pre-buds in Chicago. And I can remember like I would try to swim and it was coming up my mask at that time. Well, when I got there doing the underwater stuff, that's the first time they hit your mask off. So I had to hold my breath. I did breath hold stuff in first phase, but this never was an issue like this. I couldn't keep the water from going up my nose.
Did you actually start buds with a broken nose?
Yeah.
Had you gotten it reset or anything?
Yeah, so they told me, I asked them, they sent me to medical when they saw it. They were like, yo, Hansen, what's wrong with your face or whatever, And I, black and blues and like my nose was all just mangled. So they were like, yo, I couldn't keep the water from coming up my mask while we were doing swims, and it was just a problem. So they sent me to the medical, and the doctor was like, look, it had healed over like 4 days at this point. He's like, we can re-break it, or we can let it heal and see where it's at over time. And I don't even remember what the third one was, but I was like, that's what I'm here for. Let's, fix this thing. So I can remember him sticking all these needles in my gums and in my, under my eyes and up my nose, sticking all these needles and it got nice and numb, but doesn't go into the bone. So when he stuck this metal rod up my nose and he just starts going crank, just like re-breaking it all. I remember just that feeling down to the bone of like it pop. And then he, just tried to make it straight. And I was like, can you give me anything for this? And he was like, no, we can't give you anything because you're in training. So if we give you any painkillers, you got to be out of training. Do you want to get out of training? And I was like, no, okay. So, yeah. So anyway, I had that, but pool comp, yeah, I couldn't keep the water from going. So the first 2 times I went in, I didn't even get past the first. I did the whole first thing, and then I was just like, all the water was coming up my nose. So I made it to not even 2 minutes because they tell you your time when you get out. It was like 1:50, like both times. And then so I went into the weekend. It's a Friday. I think they do it to scare you, for.
Well, yeah, because every fail ramps up the stress for the next one.
Yeah. And a bunch of my buddies had passed and they were all happy for the weekend, but a few of them were awesome and they came to a pool with me and they helped me. So I was good with the procedures, but I had that whole thing. So my brother-in-law, who's a team guy, has said he had these 1-minute breathers. And we went into the pool at my buddy was staying at one of them fancy places on Coronado where he was living, and he was a rollback. And we did the 1 minute breathers. So I'd get my lungs all filled up, and I'd go through the procedures, but really like I'd hold my nose and then like do that. And I was like working out my nose. I did it until I was able to do it. And I was feeling good. And I left a little area of, uncertainty there. But like I went in Monday, and on the third try, I made it past 12 minutes. So it was like I could do that. And then I got the fourth one. So that was the worst thing I ever did. That was drowning underwater is not fun.
I can't imagine just the inability to, I say this weirdly, but like use your nose, if that makes sense, prevent the water, control the water from going up your nose. And the other thing too is just, you probably don't realize how much of your daily life revolves around stuff touching, and it just, that constant pain and uncomfortableness. Able to get through SQT with no issues, correct? You didn't end up getting a rollback.
No, I never did. Just that sprain. And then I stayed with it because I guess it was the most opportune time to get the sprain.
When did you graduate total?
2012.
And at that time, did you want to stay on the West Coast, or were you considering an East Coast team?
My brothers were here, and I mean, I wanted to be in California, I was into that. So.
And how many years are your brothers in at this point?
One of them's retired.
No, at that point, when you got, what team did you get to?
7.
When you got to 7, how many years were your brothers in at that point?
One was in for 5-ish years, and maybe 5 or 6. And the other one, in the Navy total, he was 15, 16 years. In the SEAL teams, his first 3 years he was a CB and in different places. But 99, he became a SEAL in 99.
Were they at 7 also? Did you actually get to team up with your brothers?
I did get to spend some time with one of my brothers overseas. We deployed at the same time. He was in a different platoon. They wouldn't let us be in the same platoon.
No Saving Private Ryan stories?
Yeah.
All the brothers go down at once.
Yeah.
Once you got into it, how'd you like it?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I love the community. I still am a part of the community. I enjoyed my time. At that time when I decided I was going to leave, I was still a new guy or just back from that first deployment. So everything was just great. And the deployment was good to Afghanistan. It was, I felt like, wow, like I'm doing it. It was good. But the music had grown inside of me. And I said, I don't want to grow old and wish that I'd tried that out, because I'm more passionate about music than anything. And that remained. I put it away. I put it aside to see, not to see. I put it aside like I'm going to the SEAL teams and that's all I want to do, and screw everything else.
Did you completely close it down in the sense of like even just on your downtime you wouldn't pick up a guitar and strum it?
I couldn't. No, I couldn't. It grew.
It's almost kind of like quote unquote an addiction. If you have just a little bit.
Yeah. Me and my brother, anytime he was in San Diego, even when he wasn't in the teams, my little brother, we'd take our vacation, we'd go back to New York, we'd book a show, we'd get with the old bandmates, we'd do a couple days in the studio, we'd make songs. We'd bring them back, I'd show them to all my buddies. We had our whole class, listen to Electric. We played at our graduation, We flew those guys out and we played gigs in San Diego, all while I was in. It was like the other thing that I did, and so it wasn't it wasn't like it didn't go away. I had put it away as a focus and all that, but all my other time, downtime went a lot to it and pursuing it. So it was natural for me to say, this is where I want to go.
And coming back from that first deployment, you were about the 3-year mark?
Yeah.
So you had 3 years ago, I think you said.
Yeah, it was the end of 2013. So I was just over three years in the military.
But it was, when I say this, you were definitively done at that point. You knew that at the end of that 6 years, you were getting out. It wasn't like, I'm thinking about it, and maybe like the last 6 months, no, I'm done. Let me just get through these next 3 years so I can go back to playing music full time.
And I've always been that way, where it's like, no, I'm going to choose. And I don't want to delay. I have that, like, if it's in here and in here, okay, that's what I'm going to do. So how do I get there? And so my delay was that I was in the SEAL teams and I had pursued that. And I was overseas and I spent a lot of time in my room writing, recording guitar riffs, and thinking about music. And yearning for that, for playing music. So, that was my process of, what am I going to do? When I got back, talked to my brother, boom, that's it. This is what we're going to do.
On the opposite side, though, the brothers who were still in and active, any push from them, like, what the hell are you doing?
They loved it. They've always loved it. My family's always been my biggest supporter. My brothers, would always joke like, oh yeah, you got to go make $1 million so I can get out and, be your security or whatever, We'd always joke like that. But yeah, it was always positive. And those are always, it still is our big, our fans is the SEAL teams make up a lot of that. They are the gung-ho electric mud, what are you guys doing? They buy the t-shirts, they all wear them. The buddies we made in those early days while we were in, those are the guys that they're still promoting it and listening to it and sharing it. So it's been great, they great.
Was getting through the second 3 years or the last 3 years difficult? No, there was other things. Like, I met my wife right at that time. We had our love affair and, getting to know each other, and got married then, a year from the end. If you're like me and you love your coffee, my go-to lately has been Blue Line Roasting. They're a Tennessee-based and law enforcement-owned company, roasting small batches of premium beans. You've got choices from Patriot, which is their light roast, to Failure Drill, their dark roast. They roast all their beans fresh, within 48 hours, and ship them to you even faster. You can also get your beans ground for you or delivered whole. Your choice. But here's the cool part. A portion of what you spend goes to support law enforcement families dealing with the impact of line-of-duty injuries or loss. You get an incredible coffee, and they get the help they need. Choose a single bag, a sample pack, or start a subscription so you're never out of coffee. Oh, and shipping is always free. Also, for the listeners of this podcast, use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your purchase. So head over to bluelineroasting.com and make every cup count.
So it's like, I decided I wanted to go play rock and roll, met my wife, dated her for, a year or so. We got married, did my other deployment, spent some time as an instructor, and then got out.
Was the instructor time more kind of a twilight in the sense that they knew you were getting out, so let's pull you off the line, give you something to do just for the last few months?
Yeah. I didn't have enough time to do another platoon. on my contract, and actually my brother was over at the area where I went, which was land warfare, and it was a chance for us to be around each other, so he pulled me over there, and then
I'm assuming though that the music ramped up as you were getting close to getting out, in the sense of playing a lot more.
Start recording the album. Got music out there, started reaching out, started playing gigs. I was around town. So we started rocking and rolling before I was out, and hit the ground running.
Now, you mentioned while you were going back home to New York, recording some albums, putting that, so the other parts of the band were on the East Coast.
Yeah.
When you got out and it's time to put the band back together, was it going to be a West Coast based or East Coast based?
Yeah, we those guys were already on to other things, It was easy to have them come in and do a show here or there. There was no dedication to what we set out to do after that, where we practiced every day and all that. They were living in New York. One guy had joined another band in LA. They were having some good success. It was like a pop, a pop band, Kitten it's called, a big following in LA. And so he was doing that, and the other guy, I think at the time, was teaching back in Staten Island already. So we got another buddy from the military, and my cousin, who was a music therapist, just finished college. He joined, he flew out, he moved to San Diego, and that was our new band. So we worked that. And that became, us rocking and rolling in San Diego, just trying to build a fan base in San Diego. And we'd just go out, we'd ping to New York and Virginia Beach, where the other team guys are, and we'd try to book shows in between. And each year we'd build up a few more. By 2019, we were, we did a 30-day trip where we recorded for 6 days of that in Oregon. We played 20 shows across the country. So that's 26 days out of the 30 right there. And we managed to see 2 Stone shows because they were touring in 2019. On that tour, we saw 2 Stone shows, one in Colorado and one in Philly. So that was cool. That was really cool. But then the next year, COVID hit. By then, we were already taking it easier, and COVID didn't put a stop to a lot of things. But yeah.
What's the origin of the band's name? How'd it come about?
Electric Mud is it's a Muddy Waters album. It's actually like a controversial among Muddy Waters fans. There's people who like it, but it's not the stuff that I really dig from him. But we thought it was a cool name. We were looking for names at the time when we had just formed up. We called ourselves Slim Pickens, which we do not sound like a Slim Pickens band. But we called ourselves that for our show. But my brother came to me one night. He was up watching a documentary with one of the other guys in the band, and he was like, "Dude, what do you think of Electric Mud? I'm watching this thing on Muddy Waters." And I was like, "I like it, man. The Stones named themselves after a Muddy Waters song, which is actually a great song, Rolling Stone. We named ourselves after one of his worst albums." So fitting.
It's all perspective.
Yeah, it's all perspective. That's right.
The music lifestyle, obviously, COVID had, jacked you all up. Is it now 5-6 years later, where do you see the trajectory of your music career going? Has it come back post-COVID? Have you been able to really kind of ramp back up again to that same level before COVID?
Well, we would have been able to, and we've played the summer of 21. We played a bunch of gigs, and last summer, 24, we played a bunch of gigs. But we're all on different
life paths.
Life paths, yeah. Excuse me. One guitarist who married my wife's sister, he's my brother-in-law now. He is a lineman up in Santa Cruz. He works all the time, making great money, living it up there. He's very happy. His father was a lineman. He had that in his back pocket, all right, the band's not doing anything. Okay, I'm going up. I'm going to trade school, guys. So he did that. He's doing great. So he's got to get time off. Then we got to get to the same place. And then we have to rehearse because we haven't played together. The bass player, my cousin, he's in Montana. He's got 2 kids now. I was the only one who was having a family while we were doing this, pre-COVID. I was having kids and doing that, which was good for us because I was, kind of heading things up. A little more like locked in that way. But now he's got a wife and kids. His wife works, and he's in Montana. And then my brother's in a audio engineering school in Nashville. We just took this epic trip flew into New Orleans and then drove through the Delta to all the spots, Natchez, where they had this nightclub that burned down in the 30s. That was on the Chitlin circuit, which was where all the black players could perform. I don't know how much of this you know about, but
I know a little bit of it because when I first started college, junior college, there was a history of rock and roll school.
Okay.
And learning about John Mayall and the Blues Breakers and all of the performers that have come through that band and moved on. But there was a small little bit, like when you said Natchez, like, okay, yeah, I remember that. There was a brief overview of, the early blues in America.
I mean, the Mississippi, just all through Mississippi, it's just incredible. These places are still like not developed, very rural, small towns. But, you get into this town and it's like there's Robert Johnson's grave. I mean, there's been a lot of, they've tried to find that for a long time, but they're pretty sure of where it is at this point. They got a nice headstone on it. Muddy Waters, that was the coolest, going to the Stovall Plantation where Muddy Waters grew up, where the Lomaxes went and recorded him with his slide guitar. And standing there where his hut was, his little house, which they picked up and moved, put it back together in the Blues Museum in Clarksdale. Going to Clarksdale, it's cool. And then, other Charlie Patton's grave, several places. Then we went up to Memphis, went to all the studios. I've been to Memphis plenty of times, but this time I went into Sun, went into American, went into Stax.
Now, are they still active recording studios or are they more museums
Sun
now?
is and American is. American is where Chips Moman, started that place. Anyway, we went to all of them. We went to High, which is, I guess you could go in, but we couldn't. But that's where Al Green did. At that studio, he worked on a lot of his stuff. And then we went Graceland, did the full Graceland, which was, finally seeing the Jungle Room, which was so cool. And then down to Tupelo. Turned out to be Elvis week. And so they were having like festival in town. We saw his birthplace, his like house, very cool. Like the grounds they made it so nice. And you walk up this hill, there's a big statue of him. It almost gives me goosebumps right now. There's like him standing over a 12-year-old boy with his guitar, which is him as a child. And there's the big Elvis, over him. crazy story, sad story, Elvis, but awesome. And then ended it up in Nashville, and we just, all this music in Nashville, all these things, and then recorded on Music Row. Did 3 tracks, which one I put out last month. One's coming out next month. And then I still got to finish up the last of the 3 tracks. I just put them out one-offs.
So is that kind of what you're transitioning to, is more solo stuff by force, in the sense of just not being in proximity to your band?
It's in tandem. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but it's we're still doing Electric Mud. So we actually have more. There's more that we've been putting out with Electric Mud over this year. We put out a few songs. I'll put out another Electric Mud next month. We have a couple coming out one at a time. There's like an algorithm thing. We're trying to do it a little differently. We've always liked albums, but music back 60s, pre-60s, like singles were the thing. And then albums became the big thing. But now, like, people listen to music so differently. So it's like, all right, well, if this is how it is, there's no reason to be shackled to this whole, like, we do albums. Like, we'll do an album again when we get the chance to get together and do it. But like,
I'm old enough to remember Tower Records having the sound booths where you could go take a 45 and go listen to the song before you bought it. And it was all about the singles.
Yeah. Singles, I mean, have always driven a lot of album sales too. I just saw the Bruce Springsteen movie, Deliver Me From Nowhere, which the book, Warren Zane's great writer. He wrote one on Petty and he wrote this. Great book. I thought the movie was really good. But there's a scene in there where John Landau, the manager, is like, Bruce, I showed Jimmy Iovine, you're born in the USA. And he's, oh, what do you think? He's like, he said you don't need anything else on the album. That's it. It's like, yeah, you have that one song. That album had a lot, but anyway, yeah, we're putting singles out. We got Electric Mud singles, still doing that, but it's harder. It's easy for me to go down to the studio. And even when we cut stuff, I'll go in the studio and I'll work on it. If like my brother's in town, he could come in and he could do percussion or do back vocals, then good. If he's not, I could still go in and do those things too. And we can get it to the finish line and put it out and still have the, till the next time we get together and we could cut the live stuff and the stuff that we could do together. Then I can take it and finish up the overdubs with the engineer or maybe an extra producer. I've been working with producer Steve Churchyard, who's worked on me. Got to start working with Paul McCartney, and he's worked through the years on rock and pop, and he's really I learned a lot from him. So I've worked with him in the studio, even on Electric Mud stuff and my stuff. Yeah.
I love hearing the stories. You go back to Zeppelin, and when and I believe even every big band has probably done it. They take over a mansion or something for this particular album, and they make the mansion the recording studio. Or if you talk or you see the backstory on the Bee Gees creating the Saturday Night Fever album, and they came to Miami and rented a house in Miami. And where I'm going with this is in the sense of recording. You mentioned having recorded on Music Row, recorded up in Oregon. Is there someplace kind of still on your bucket list where, man, so-and-so recorded there, that's where I want to record a song at?
Actually, yeah, those Memphis Sun Records and American. I'm sure we'll go there and we'll record there. There's a place my engineer has told me in Mississippi, or actually it's in Louisiana, outside of New Orleans. That's supposed to be amazing. I didn't get to visit that, but there's a place in Tulsa called The Church that what's his name? Drawing a blank. Leon Russell. He's a famous session player and then became, a star in his own right. He started up that place. It's a church, and, he made it a studio, and they've kept it up. You can record there. And I have a buddy who does film, a buddy out from boot camp, and he does film, and he just went back. He's from Oklahoma. He just went back there. I met him there this summer. I do a lot of road tripping, even with my wife and kids, with the band or whatever.
How often are you getting to perform live?
This year, we only did 1 or 2 shows. And I've done a little solo. Like when I first kicked off my solo album, the first one, I was like, I got to get out and do this thing. But me and my acoustic guitar is not really the way. I didn't come up doing it that way. And it's not, like I told myself I had to love this and I had to do it, like playing with my acoustic guitar, but it's not, I don't know. It's not really come to me that way.
Is it almost more like that? That's where I develop my songs, not necessarily where I perform my songs. If that makes sense.
I write. I sit down with my acoustic, and that's where from
your mindset, when you think about performing, you're like, man, the acoustic in me is that's where I develop the song. That's not how I want to perform it.
Yeah, and I'll get away from saying like the acoustic guitar because I love the acoustic guitar, and we've played shows live that way. But it's the band. I need the backbeat. I need the band.
The camaraderie.
That's really
the team.
Yeah, that's really what I enjoy. And I was just trying to tell myself, like, get out there and do it. And I did, but it's not at this point in my life, it has not taken hold. So I kind of was like, all right, I won't do those. So yeah, when the band can get together and when it makes sense, because the gig's got to be good. Because as I was saying before, we have to all be able to get together. Then we have to get a place where we can rehearse a little bit. We can do a much more off the cuff show, but depending on what the gig is, but we don't like it that way. We like to have a little bit of practice together. It never feels good when someone, forgets the chord going into the bridge or.
I don't mean to make light of it or anything, but it's, and somebody's going to say it's not, but you wouldn't deploy without a workup.
Yeah.
There's the importance of timing. There's the importance of getting used to how each of you moves, how, getting that unwritten feeling of each other together.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see it. Now, you've stayed here in San Diego because you got back into the training community, correct?
That, yeah. I mean, the job that pays the bills is here.
Do you see yourself
with the SEAL teams? Yeah.
Long term, from a musician's perspective, I know I asked you if there's a place you want to record, but from a music perspective, is there a long term vision of where you want to end up to be in and around music? Or is that not really something that you think about much?
No, because you could get anywhere. And if it's a period in your life, a season, I love, to look at life in seasons. If it's a season of your life where you can go somewhere and hunker down and record there, whether it is, we've always dreamed of having rent a really cool house somewhere and that's where we record. And we've recorded in homes, especially all our early stuff was not in studios really, but to do a great album that way would be awesome. But I more think of it as it'd be cool to go here and do something. It'd be cool to go here and do something. But living, like my current house is pretty nice. I got a great property, got a great view. And like my dad said when we moved there, and because we've always talked about I can't get no satisfaction, what am I trying to get out of life here? And he showed up and he said, well, if you can't do it here, you can't do it anywhere. And it's right, so.
The reason why I asked that is I think back to being a young kid sneaking into Hollywood, while I was in high school to see bands. Again, like I said, Motley Crue for me, man, for a period of my life, they were it. Sneaking into Hollywood when I was underage to go see them. And I know this is my age and everything now, and I love seeing my daughter because she's really into going out and seeing young, small bands, small venues, but it just doesn't feel the same from a music perspective of going, I use the term going to Hollywood or going into LA to see bands. It just doesn't feel like that's what music is today from the outsider, at 57 years old looking in. What are you seeing with the way music is progressing today?
Yeah, I wonder about that sometimes. I wonder if it's, I'm getting older, and do we just see it differently? Like what our music is getting further removed. I already liked old music more than my peers anyway. Now it's just that much older. Born to Run turned 50 this year, and that was like a young album to me compared to like the Stones, and all that other stuff. But I wonder, like, maybe to the younger generation, or to, kids who are 18, 19, 20, if there is that, maybe they do have that and they could go find that, and they have their own little network that we're not in. I would think that it's there. There's those venues. I mean, I haven't been playing as many gigs lately, but say in the late 2016 to 2021, playing all the gigs around San Diego, they've got shows going all the time. You can go see those shows, and those shows, there's people there. I went to one place, a really cool venue, Music Box. The owner of the Belly Up owns Music Box. Music Box is downtown San Diego. And I went and saw a band because we were eating dinner there with some friends, and we said, let's go see a band. Went in there, didn't know the band, looked at the calendar of all the bands coming for the next 2 months, didn't know the name of one of them, but there was 50 shows on there. And, I know what it takes to be in that place, and you could have a low night, but if you're booking that place, then you got to be bringing people. So there's people going to see music.
And I'm sure, like you said, a large factor of it is our age. When you were 18, 19 years old, when I was 18, 19 years old, just getting out and getting into a club and seeing a band live, that was the experience. Like, I just want to be out and hearing some live music. Now you get older and you're like, shit, I got to get in the car. I got to drive there. I got to find parking. I don't know the band. Never mind. Yeah. I bet you if you just committed to it and went and saw 25 of those 50 bands coming, I guarantee you one or two of them are going to go, damn, they're good. Yeah.
I think a lot of times when I see live music, I enjoy it, even if I don't know the people. So I don't know. I think it's there. I don't know where there's a scene. I know Nashville is filled with it.
Well, it's like you said, though, streaming has completely changed how music is disseminated and put out. I mean, the old days of people having to press their own 45s and throwing them out in the audience at hey, here's my Instagram page, or here's what my Spotify page. You can go listen to my music.
You're fighting everybody else for that attention. What am I going to listen to? It's so much easier for me to just call upon whatever I want to listen to. My kids, like, they don't know. They just and I have to pretend that I can't play them what they want to hear right now because they want to listen to, there's people who make their money off just making fart songs with whatever person's name in it. So these kids, they will spend all day listening to that and, Perry Griff stuff. Some of it's funny for a minute, but after a while, So, yeah, you're fighting all of that. because it's at everyone's disposal. So I don't know how do you that. Well, that's with the singles that I was saying. You know, putting music out to try and get into the algorithms a bit. Nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, I trying to angle myself so I can get the most exposure. Back in the day, record companies did that for people. I mean, that was the whole thing, was the artist didn't have to worry about these things. We'll do it for you. Artists had to worry about it when they weren't having such a good career, or they didn't have a good manager, or they're getting, but like when it was done well, the artist didn't have to worry about these things. And then they can go make great art. But that only comes when you've had a degree of success. Anyway, I'm going down. I think what I'm talking about is Spotify and how people listen to music. You got to get yourself in front of these people, and you've got to get them, however it's working, you've got to get them to decide they want to get their attention on you. And what I've found is there are certain people that are very interested in listening to new music. And that's what they do. There are a lot fewer than the people who want to listen to what they want to listen to. And then you've got to find those people that will drive other people towards your music.
One of the things that always sticks out to me, and I think it's an amazing story, is not just the fact that she's a woman, Dolly Parton, but the era that she came up in, and to have the forethought, I don't know if it was somebody in her ear, but to say, no, I'm not selling, I'm going to retain the rights to my music. For that era, for a woman to have that confidence, I don't think a lot of people realize what it took for her to do that and to see that big picture. Because I would imagine if you're a young up-and-coming star and somebody comes to you and they're like, well, but we control your rights, you don't really look at the long-term picture of that.
Yeah. Especially you're trying to get that success. I mean, I read those stories all the time of artists who sold their songwriting or publishing or whatever early on, and then they're fighting to get it back. Or, Paul McCartney, I've been listening to these giant volume Paul McCartney books, and the Beatles had this issue, and, kind of forced the ending of the Beatles was, management. And the three others wanted to go with Alan Klein, who was not a good dude. And Paul McCartney wanted to go with someone else, but that was a family member. So they were like, but they're fighting for ownership of their songs. And it's like they got to deal with that for years in and out. I mean, you're talking about the Beatles at the end of their time, their success. Anyway, everyone, all these young people who signed their stuff away and then had to figure it out. I think when I see it, I'm like, that's probably what I would have done. It's like, oh, this is, I just want to go on, rock the bigger show and make a better album and be able to work with these people. And, oh yeah, sure. Okay. Like that.
Well, you mentioned Elvis. I mean, look at from a management perspective, how it impacted him and as big as he got and never left the country.
Yeah.
I mean, just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, they just put out Peter Guralnick, who's like the best rock and roll writer, put out, he wrote the bios on Elvis, 2-part. He just put out a third, The Colonel and the King, about what he has discovered more about the Colonel. I guess more human than, the enemy guy that everyone sees him as. But
where can people find your music? Where's the easiest place to find your music?
Yeah, Spotify is great, but anywhere, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever, you're talking Alexa, you could take your time trying to get Alexa to hone in on Marc Hansen or Electric Mud. It's usually easy to get her to find Electric Mud, but you got to watch out because there's other Electric Muds out there too. But it's funny because just for like a little exercise, I will try to get like my most recent song that I released, try to get Alexa to find it. I'll be like, play, Time for Leaving by Marc Hansen. I couldn't find that, but I found this, and she plays something else, or she plays another. So I'm like, no. And I try to like word it differently, or try to like make
Aren't there the Hansen brothers or something like that?
There's that, yeah.
That used to do music.
Hansen, yeah. Yep. Bop. But anyway, yeah, all that. My website, our website, electricmudofficial.com. You can find merch on there too. From time to time, we sell out of certain shirts, and it takes us a minute to like put it back up. But yeah, follow us on Spotify. If we get the follows and the streams, that's big help for us.
Are you embracing the visual aspect of social media and doing the clips and stuff of your performances, and you performing, or even just sitting in your living room with your guitar?
I have done a little bit of actually getting like artists to like put a little like something with our animation. But I've got to do more with it. I actually have some footage that I've been meaning to take clips from, so I can put that to some of those songs. But no, most of them don't have it. I'll just put like some image that I get an artist to make, and it will move.
Bringing it back to the military component. You knew you wanted to get out. You knew you wanted to pursue music. Since you've been out, any regrets of not staying in longer?
There's been times where I've thought about it. After a couple of years when things started to slow down, and we talked in the beginning about the stadium and the fans singing your song back to you. After years, and then you're not really getting that, and you're like, well, what am I doing here? I'm a dad, and there's other things that I gotta press into. What success look like? Then I've looked back and been like, man, like that's when I get that time to look back, especially working with them. I say it would have been nice to have been able to like progress a little bit more, take on some leadership. But ultimately, I don't regret it at all. I don't regret it, but I don't look back in that way. Like I don't allow myself to look back in that kind of, morose way. It's like life is good. Life was good. I'm glad about that stuff. And I hope I could do some more cool stuff, and I hope that I'm not even saying my best is behind me. I'll be 40 next year. Willie Nelson he started getting his career going. He had a lot of great songs behind him that great people had already done. He was known as a songwriter, but he really got his legend going. He was 40. It was in the 70s. I was born in the early 30s. So who knows?
I just saw him. He was just at Stagecoach 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. He was here in San Diego this year too with Bob Dylan.
I'm not trying to overgeneralize this or any, but if you've got the talent and you're really good, you'll always be there. And that's one of the reasons why the Stones are still performing.
Yeah.
And why Willie Nelson is still performing. Maybe it's all the weed though too.
That's true. Maybe I need to smoke more weed.
You don't have the,
maybe I don't have the talent. Maybe
you don't
I
have the
need to smoke
pigtails.
Yeah, I don't. No, I did. I had it early on. I had the big mane and the big beard, but it's gone.
Wrapping it up from the transition perspective, you've got a unique perspective in that you've transitioned out, but you're still in and around the community. Any pieces of it? Actually, I want to take a step back. I'm sure a lot of people always are looking for the little gem, getting into the special operations community, making it through buds. Do you have anything that you tend to be your go-to for if somebody's asking for advice on how to make it through?
Yeah, the young guys that I've seen, that I've talked to, trying to enter in or before they had entered in, use all the resources you got. You know somebody, talk to them and get their advice and take it. And test yourself, before you go enter something like that, like buds. Like you should be testing yourself physically and mentally, how hard you can go, and not shying away, ready for the next thing. So you always got to be able to dig down in your gut, because it's just going to get worse, and you got to get ready for that. I think those are the things I took, go hard. There was a lot of people who said, don't worry about the guy next to you because they're going to go away. You got to, it's all you're going to get through. But we actually found it different. My teammates, my brother and us guys who were in buds together, we had a great camaraderie. We were disappointed when we saw some studs that we never thought would quit or go away, but we held on to each other tight and formed like a huge bond. And I think that's common. I think a lot of guys do, but that was different from the advice that I got. And I think that helps, because if you have a mentality where you're going to do anything for this guy, that takes a little pressure off thought of you and your misery right now. I've never been the most like, I'll do anything for anybody guy. But I definitely was like die hard for my teammates. And that was helpful, I think. It charged me.
From the transition component, and you hit on a great point of listen to the advice you get. Now that you've got some time between you and when you transitioned out, and you had a very specific plan, man, I want to go back to making music. But from what you experienced, and then from what you're still seeing, still being connected to the community or the military, any last pieces of advice for somebody transitioning or getting close to transitioning out that you wish maybe somebody had told you?
Yeah, I talk to a lot of guys getting out and see a lot of guys. Most of them find their way pretty good. There's a lot, especially in our community. It's a fairly tight-knit community. So you always know somebody who's kind of at least touched the path you want to go down to a degree. For the music, I haven't. It was a little harder. But for a lot of other things, guys want to go into business or want to go get a degree or something. Like there's so much at their disposal. And one, don't worry. Guys worry about their medical records and all sorts of things. Like, don't worry. Find the people that have recently got out and are doing it. Talk to them. To have those conversations is probably key. I think you have to shift your focus. That'll happen to you when you get out, or you can do it before you get out, and save yourself some I want to say pain, but learning pains. seek out those people that are going down that road or been down that road. Find out what's available to you, benefits wise, GI Bill. I tell guys a lot, like just apply to school, like while you're getting out. If you don't, a lot of guys will be like, oh, I'll figure it out. I'll get out. And then I'll take some time and figure it out. It's like, that's fine. For most guys, it gets old quick. But like, if you just sign up to go to school and work towards that, you're getting paid to go to school with the GI Bill, working towards something. It's not that much pressure, not like a full-time job. And like, you're set up. Now you could be doing that. And if you want to say, oh, that's too much, I really do want to take a year off, you just stop going to school. And you won't get hurt. So I encourage guys to like just pick that path and like get on it before they're out. And it will actually make it easier rather than load more on their plate.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best going forward.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
As always, thank you for listening or watching the episode. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out on social media or send me an email. The links are all in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're not already, please follow the podcast on whatever platform you get your podcasts. You can also subscribe on YouTube. And if you would, please leave me a rating. Ratings do two things. You can tell me what I need to fix or improve, and more ratings also gets the podcast recommended to more people. Another ask, please share the podcast with anyone you think could benefit from and enjoy it. And last, don't forget, sign up for the newsletter.
Bend it all the way home. In my heart beats on like a pounding drum. Gonna sing my song to this world I'm on. If you call my name, I'm as good as gone. In my heart beats on. Yeah, my heart beats on. Yeah, the honky tonk just rolls right on. I'm red hot blue, born on stone. Gonna boogie woogie to them old western songs.